Recording in progress.
Good morning, familiar, beautiful faces. Well, I, or that which I take to be I, woke up again. No coffee this morning. I decided green tea instead. Feels like a major change. Because I have this energy crash around 9:30 or so, and I wonder, could it possibly be? Who knows? Well, lovely to see you. I have a poem. I could orient as to date. I don't know what it is, though. It's not showing up on my watch. I think it's the 30th, 31st. That's good. Thank you, audience. This is my head. The 31st of January. Wow. 2022. Well, in honor of that, let's have a little more Mary Oliver. A familiar friend. This poem. Look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light. They're giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails are bursting and floating away over the blue shoulders of the ponds. And every pond, no matter what its name is nameless now. Every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads back to this, the fires in the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things. To love what is mortal. To hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it. And when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things. To love what is mortal. To hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it. And when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things. To love what is mortal. To hold it against your bones, knowing that your own life depends upon it. And when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. Everything which has a beginning has an ending. Hey, Michael Shohan. How's the sound of the guitar? Loud enough? Too loud? Good? Notice how each sound comes out of nowhere. Probably 2 dozen years ago, I was at Powell's bookstore in Portland. Powell's City of Books. I'm told the second largest bookstore in the world. There were 2 books in the Buddhism section. They were the stories. They were Zen, haiku. And there were categories of what was this person doing when they had their great realization and woke up. There was a short chapter for those who were sitting on their meditation cushion. There was a bigger chapter for those who were sitting by the pond and noticed the drops coming in. There was a pretty significant chapter that happened on the toilet. There was a significant chapter that was in lovemaking. And they all had in common something. The person realized in one way or another anicca, impermanence, dukkha, unsatisfactoriness or suffering, or anatta, the wind and I were one. Each drop that hit the water and I were one. So it's a wonderful way to listen to music. To notice how each sound comes into being and then disappears. It's another wonderful way to observe relationship, of course. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. So, dear friends, precious friends of this lifetime, let's sit. Let's sit and dissolve into our true nature. Let's sit and let nature take us. Let us intentionally give up all our doing and rest back into our being. And we have our rituals of practice, I guess we could call them, our strategies. Let's notice that the body is alive. That's all it takes, is noticing that the body is alive. It's a challenging thing to be a human being. Not at all like the advertising or how it's supposed to be. We can notice that each breath has a beginning, a middle, and an ending, and everything in between. And there's nothing to figure out. There's no problem to solve. From way back in the Buddhist time, we have the suggestion that we become like an observer at the gate to a city. And our job is not to control anything. but simply to notice what comes and goes. Oh, look, it's a group of people on the way to a wedding. Oh, a load of wood. A tanker full of oil. Just ordinary stuff. Oh, look, it's a wandering mind. Oh, look, it's an obsessed mind. It's a mind full of fear. It's a mind in suffering over the pain in the body. Or it's a mind in spaciousness, having no dukkha despite the pain. Or it's a quiet mind. A mind in which thoughts are occasional at most. We set our course to be present. It's a noble intention. Probably nothing more important we can do as human beings. To actually live in reality and to awaken time and again from the dream, from the fantasies. And so we become really intimate with breathing. Perhaps we become interested in the texture of the breath. They're not all the same. This one is like this one is like this. And we might include in our home base the entire body. Allowing awareness to open in the feet and the legs, in the fingers and hands and arms, in the pressure of the chair against the body, in the sensations created by clothing, in the life of the face and the eyes and the cheeks and the lips. In short, the whole body. It's all alive. And in the midst of it all, there's this breathing in and breathing out. It's so very helpful to remember the guidance of Ajahn Chah, to bring your practice into balance at any moment. Simply remember, it's like this. This moment is like this. There is great beauty in sitting silently, in awakening from the daydreams, in noticing the five hindrances when they arise, in cultivating mindfulness, in cultivating curiosity. Oh. There is great beauty in sitting as we are. Nobility. They call them the Four Noble Truths or the Four Ennobling Truths. The Noble Eightfold Path. Each and every one of us is a vehicle for the awakening of consciousness. It's not a metaphor. And we notice the breath coming and going, the body, the five hindrances, the mind of desire or aversion, the mind of restlessness and agitation or sloth and torpor, the mind of doubt, the mind shot through with emotions. All of these. We cultivate awareness, presence, mindfulness. We cultivate curiosity. We cultivate concentration and equanimity, tranquility, persistence, joy, love and compassion. That's a noble undertaking. And in a way, it's also simple. I sit here and I practice being present with the breath and noticing what the mind does. Each breath has a beginning. Each thought has a beginning. And let us intentionally connect with our imagination, our capacity to generate thoughts on purpose. We might imagine that there sits at the center of our heart, at the center of your heart, a little tiny golden figure that's shaped precisely like you. Every hair, every pore, every scar, it's exactly like you. And we might think of this as the Buddha or Kuan Yin or Mary or whatever archetypal figure you might be inclined toward, whatever your chosen ideal might be. And imagine that flowing in through this portal from the infinite vastness of the universe, there's a flow of love. It's the love we've always wanted. It's the unconditional, totally enveloping, blessed love. And it comes with compassion too. For all the ways you're hurting now or have ever hurt in your whole lifetime. And let this love flow in, and it may encounter thoughts like, well, this is silly, or this doesn't really exist, or I don't deserve it, but and those are the parts of us that most need the love, aren't they? So let this love come in and flow out of the heart, down into the solar plexus and the abdomen, into the pelvis, into the thighs and feet, leaving nothing out, flowing up into your chest and shoulders and arms and hands and fingers, into your neck and head and face. And this is a kind of love you can't earn. It just is and always was. It's just because you are. And let's imagine that that golden Buddha figure in your heart expands now. And you may be very visual in your imaginations, or you could be kinesthetic, or maybe it's just the thought or the intention. It doesn't matter. It's just the notion of entertaining the possibility that this golden Buddha can expand until his, her, its, their body contours fit exactly like yours, with yours. And so your body becomes this golden Kuan Yin figure, this unnamed figure. And let every breath be the breath of that being. And then on the in-breath, we might say anything, but why not, may I be really, really happy. May I be content with the way life is. On the out-breath, our golden bodies, let's wish to everyone in this gathering this morning, may everyone here be happy, free from fear, danger. What would your words be? May everyone live with ease and grace. May you be liberated. And in the in-breath, including all those parts of those unfinished parts of ourselves. The old irritations, the old resentments we cherish, the wounds here and there in the body, the sicknesses that are here right now. May they all be touched by great love and breathing in the love of our friends. And now extending this love, this blessing, this from our little node of Indra's web where we live, where we are. May all beings everywhere on this little planet of ours be touched. May those of the air, those who soar and fly in the air, be touched by our love. May those of the trees, the cliff sides, may those who walk on the ground and slither on the ground and slide on the ground, may those who burrow, may all beings, from the greatest of the great whales to the tiniest of bacteria, everything that's alive, may we relax into our true nature. And now, remembering that you can come to this golden Buddha process at any moment you want, you might now invite the golden Buddha contiguous with your skin to shrink down into the place where it always resides, in the heart. Or you might leave it on, up, to have a day as the Buddha or as Kuan Yin. And now, becoming aware of the body where it touches the chair. Noticing the aliveness in the face, in the eyes. And notice the intentions that are required for opening the eyes. And then when you do operationalize those intentions, notice what it takes. It takes some effort to raise the eyelids. And then notice what happens with the sense door of seeing opening. And the seeing may be acute. There might be fine shapes. There might be persons you recognize, perceptions. Or the seeing might be not acute, might be blurred, or maybe even just light. Noticing the presence or absence of seeing. And please join me in a few moments of looking from window to window. These are not just pictures on an electronic screen. These are actual flesh and blood human beings. People with hopes, fears, gain and loss, sickness, health. Dreams that are coming true and dreams that are collapsing. These are beings who are committed to waking up. Not such a common breed on the planet. I was reminded during that brief little loving kindness practice of a time in my years. I was married to a Sufi. Became a Sufi. I was initiated as a Sufi by Hidayat Anayat Khan. He gave me a Sufi name of Siddhartha, which was rather fitting. But they do all kinds of different imagination practices, and one of them they call it Tasawwari, and you could do Tasawwari Buddha, and what it means is becoming, acting as if you were the Buddha, walking practices. Walk as the Buddha. How does your posture change as you walk around the room being the Buddha? How does it change when you're Kuan Yin? One of the gestures was, sometimes there was music to these two, and the gestures with Kuan Yin one time where she was moving like this, offering compassion to the world. Every step, compassion. Tasawwari, it's a wonderful practice and fun to do in the world. I had a necessary trip to the mall the other day. And when I go in there, sometimes I remember. I don't go very often, but I was doing Tasawwari Buddha as I walked to the Apple store. It really felt good. Nice to go to an Apple store without 2-hour lines. So, friends, a couple of announcements. You must be tired of these. I am. Tomorrow night, Tuesday night, the gala event, the gathering at 7 p.m. The gathering, we are invited by the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee of PIMC, the Welcoming Committee, to gather together. The link for this is on the front page of portlandinsight.org, top left. And we're addressing the issues of diversity in our community. And we've done some significant work already, and there's much more to do. And we invite you to come and be part of it, to share your perspective and your longings. And so there's that. The other is that I am here for another 4 days in the mornings. And then on Saturday morning, Jen and I are on the bird to Costa Rica for 2 weeks of retreat and letting down, which I'm really looking forward to. And the other PIMC teachers will be here. Hello, Jim. I saw you. There you are. Jim will be here, and Gregory and Kendall and the gang. So, I think that's all I want to talk about in terms of that. Anything you'd care to share? Oh, maybe I'm going to do a little shout out to Mish. The fence is finished in lightning speed. We now have a beautiful new fence in a very short time. Very nice, much nicer fence, actually. The gate is superior to the way we had it. I'm going to go over the top and say, if you're in Portland and you need anything built, this is the person. So anything from you, my friends? Hello, Pamela. Are you raising your hand?
I am. I just wanted to, it was really quick, mention something I learned in meditation today. And I have not sat or knelt on my cushion for a long time. I've sat in this really lovely, soft and gentle, en- encompassing chair for
Mm-hmm.
quite a while. And today I uh, was on my cushion, on my knees, and I was much more able to focus, and I just learned, I guess, a little bit more about sloth and torpor, because I think I've just been sitting so comfortably, and it was helpful to be on my cushion. So I just found that a fun thing that I learned today.
That's cool. Lots of interesting experiments, huh?
Uh-huh.
I guess I have another bit of PIMC news that this afternoon at 2:00, the commercial carpet cleaning people are coming, and they will clean the Dharma hall and the front hall. They're going to polish the floors in the restrooms downstairs, and they're going to wash the hall, the long hall downstairs, because the firemen and others walked in with very dirty boots. So that floor is getting a second cleaning. The soot from that fire was greasy. It was awful stuff. Hard to get off your feet. There's that, and then Wednesday our new used stove is arriving, as well as the new furniture, the new couches. So the place is popping. Popping. I don't like that sound. The place is humming. Better.
Robert.
I hear
It's
a voice.
Beatty.
Hello,
Yeah.
B.
Hi. How are you?
I'm okay.
Good. So I have a little bit of a story and it ends in a question. And the question, just to prepare you, is going to be about Alzheimer's and dementia.
Mm.
So my father died of the complications of those 18 years ago. And he he was living in a facility and he could still speak and he could still feed himself and he still knew us as someone that he loved, although I'm not sure he knew specifically who we were. And he made a decision to stop eating and drinking. we don't know if he knew really where that was going to lead. We think maybe he had some other thoughts about it, but my sister and I thought it was a good decision, and so that's what happened. So that particular way of the possibility of getting Alzheimer's and dementia, of course, as we all age, is always in our minds. And it's a journey that I've really not wanted to see to the end if it ever happened to me. And I know you've spoken before about how it's kind of a dissolving of the ego. But what I'm wondering about is there a way that actually that journey too could be a kind of a path of mindfulness, or is there no hope? I mean, in some ways, it seems like the epitome of what we're working with. It's suffering, it's impermanence, and it's loss of self. But what do you think? If you end up on that path and you don't have a way out, is there a way for you, not for the people around you, but for you to also keep on the path of mindfulness? Do you know what I'm asking?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I don't know. Let me see if there's. I want to see if I can find something easily here. It might be possible. I don't know. So let me see. Oh, here we are. This might be it. Let me see. Oops, that's not it. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm looking for a video that I took of Ruth Denison when she was dying. This might be it. I'll come to that in a second. We really want to know what happens when we die, don't we? We want to know that something goes on and I asked Achan Sumedho one time, one of my great heroes, right? He was the first Thai forest Western monk. I asked him, do you know what happens when we die? And he said, I have no idea. In the book, there was the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, Sogyal Rinpoche, which is all about what to do at the moment of death and what happens in the bardos afterwards. And he was in town, and one of my student friends he was a journalist, and he asked him, so is all this information about what happens after death from tradition or from your direct knowledge? And he replied, it's from tradition. So this is one of those things we so want to know. And what happens with Alzheimer's? You know, Ruth didn't have Ruth had preceding dementia when she died, and funny, a lot of thoughts are rushing in. The last time I saw her alive, I went down there. I went to see an attorney here in Portland who specializes in elder care and elders, and And I showed him what I had documents-wise, and he said, Robert, you need to go to California yesterday and get these things together. You need a power of attorney, and you need her to have a will. There was a trust, but it was totally not working anymore. And so I flew down very quickly afterwards, and I convinced her to go to an attorney with me. And she didn't want to go. She really didn't want to go. And we went, and it was very contentious. Is that the right word? Contentious. And we were underneath the attorney's office in Palm Springs, and she started crying and said, "This isn't my style. I'm a housewife from Germany. This is too fancy for me." But we got it done. We got the paper signed and so on. On the way home, we stopped at Walmart, and she was in a wheelchair, and she was commanding me to do this and do that, and at one point I said, "Ruth, you have to stop. I can't do it." And then we got home, and I don't know, about an hour later after we got home, I was taking some time by myself, and she came up to me in her walker and said, "I'm really being a bitch, aren't I?" And I said, "Yeah, it's hard." And she said, "I am so sorry, I can't help myself." So there was mindfulness there. I mean, she wasn't deeply gone into Alzheimer's, but there was that. And then another line completely. I had a marvelous, when I did my social work training, I was incredibly fortunate to be assigned to Reed College for a year-long internship. And I had a woman named Anita Witt as my supervisor. And she was amazing, psychoanalytically oriented. And one of the first things she said to me is, these young people here at Reed College are much smarter than you. If you try to keep up with them with intellect, you will fail terribly. However, if you stay in contact with the present moment and your feelings, then you'll be able to help them. That's great advice. But then, anyway, I saw her. I got my licensure with her supervising me. And then for 6 more years, I went to see her once a week or once every 2 weeks. And I would always take the case, the person that I was the most confused with. I'd go and that was my deal with her, that I would always bring the person I was most embarrassed about. I didn't understand. And I did that for a long time. And then we remained friends, she and her husband and my partner at the time, and I had dinner together several times. Anyway, long story short, about 4 years ago, she was done, and she decided she was going to stop eating, and she did. And I went to see her, and we had a last conversation, and it was very difficult on her children because she was cognitively quite intact, but she just was done. She didn't want to proceed anymore. Her husband had died. She was quite deaf. So, what am I trying to say? I guess I'll show you this little video. Ruth had a massive stroke, and then following her wishes, and I was the person in charge, and I went along with her wishes. There was a lot of pushback against it. Some people wanted us to keep her alive, but she lived for 11 days, and this. Someone gave her a Tibetan mala. She was no longer communicative with anyone. But every now and then, Every now and then a bead would happen. So right to the end, her practice held her, I think. Also, on that last trip before her stroke, I slept in the living room. There was one bedroom and a living room in her place. And in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, I would wake up. And she was 95, quite infirm. She'd have her walker, and she was doing a walking meditation back and forth across the living room. So I don't know if that's any help, but I don't know that there's anything more we can do than to do our practice and to develop our consciousness as much as we can. And then another story, the one retreat I did with Ajahn Samedo, I was washing the floor in the kitchen, which was my yogi job, and he came in, and I asked him, what would you say has been, what's the result for you of all these years of monastic practice? And he paused for a little while and then said very kindly, you know, Robert, I think I'm going to be able to handle anything that life throws at me. I'm visiting a man who has ALS. I try to go once a week. He can't speak anymore. He can use his eyes to very laboriously type. And our conversations are turn conversations of a sort. I talk while I'm there, and then he will write me an email afterwards and respond. But his conversation, I would put it that way, is turning toward using the Oregon Death with Dignity Act. And he's thinking sometime this spring, because he doesn't want to ride that journey that he's on all the way to the end. Now, traditional Buddhist teachings would be utterly opposed to that. There's no euthanasia even for animals. So that's an interesting thing there, isn't it? Where do we stand? Where do you stand on that? I've been present at 2 Death with Dignity departures, and they were most beautiful. In one, there was a woman at PIMC who had very little family involvement, and we were quite close. I knew her for several years, all through her diagnosis and sickness. It was when she actually used the Death with Dignity Act, she had a bowel obstruction and was going to need surgery, and she was clearly dying. But anyway, the long and short of it was she sat with her head on my shoulder, and the medical person who had brought the concoction, asked her all the proper questions. There's a certain ritual of questions you have to ask. Do you know what this is? Do you know what you will do if you drink it? And so on. And then she was told it's very bitter. About 45 minutes before the final drink, they give one strong anti-vomiting medication because the barbiturates are very bitter. And so the medical person told her, you need to drink this quickly and drink all of it. And she was having trouble swallowing because we don't want you to pass out before you get a lethal dose. And so she took it and looked at it and went, down the hatch, here I go. Drank it, and within a minute or two, she was unconscious on my shoulder, and then she died very soon thereafter. So any of us, we have no idea whether we'll face circumstances like this, and I really, as you can tell, I'm perhaps belaboring this, but I think it's really worthwhile reflecting on and deciding, and never know what we would do in the end. A very small percentage of people who get the prescriptions for the Oregon Death with Dignity Act fill them, and of those who fill them, very few actually use it. But I've heard from several people that they feel comforted knowing that they have the door if they need it. So that was a long-winded response, B. I hope helpful in some way. We just don't know. And I guess I want to say one more thing. And we could hear that and get kind of depressed or freaked out or whatever, but the fact is we're going to go anyway. We're here for a brief time. And it's the strangest, weirdest thing, I think, in the universe. A human being gets born, goes through somebody training, becomes somebody, does this dance for a lifetime, which in cosmic time is no time at all, and then disappears. I mean, that's weird. No matter how wonderful you look on Facebook, it still happens.
Good morning, Robert. It's Kat.
Hello, Kat.
Hello. First of all, B, thank you so much for that question. I have a follow-up question from this morning that I wonder if you can talk a little bit about, which is that I found myself letting go and being with the sounds I was hearing and being with my breath. And feeling some version of expansiveness. And then my mind would go, oh, I'm losing my grip on reality, and pop back in and constrict right up again. That fear of like losing my sanity and losing my understanding of reality was very present today and very up today. Like if I surrender, I'll no longer have my own mind. And so it feels like a very apropos question for what B was talking about for this moment.
That's what you get for practicing diligently.
Oh gosh, darn it.
Hang on. I'm going to give you one of these responses. Hang on. There is a fear. The self is desperately afraid. And when glimpses or more of freedom appear, the self can get very frightened. Fear. All right. This is a little poem a little writing piece by Joko Beck, a person who began as a Zen master and then gave up Zen and just became herself. Intelligent practice always deals with just one thing, the fear at the base of human existence. The fear that I am not. And of course, I am not. But the last thing I want to know is that. I am impermanence itself in a rapidly changing human form that appears solid. I fear to see what I am, an ever-changing energy field. I don't want to be that. So good practice is about fear. Fear takes the form of constantly thinking, speculating, analyzing, fantasizing. With all that activity, we create a cloud cover to keep ourselves safe in make-believe practice. True practice is not safe. It is anything but safe. But we don't like that, so we obsess with our feverish efforts to achieve our version of the personal dream. Such obsessive practice is itself just another cloud between ourselves and reality. The only thing that matters is seeing with an impersonal searchlight, seeing things as they are. When the personal barrier drops away, why do we have to call it anything? We just live our lives, and when we die, we just die. No problem anywhere.
Yeah, right. It's a very good answer.
Does it ring true? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. This is not, using mindfulness practice for stress management is really a wonderful thing. Using it to develop emotional resiliency and the capacity to modulate emotion and work with the neurotic mind to become more sane. It's a wonderful thing. It's fantastic. And however, to use it spiritually and to be asking the really deep questions is a mind-boggling, life-transforming, it's a revolutionary thing. And to be coming here every morning, or many mornings, as it is for many of you, you're probably noticing your life changing. And when big challenges come along, you may be very surprised at how you respond, because you're changing. The truth of impermanence is wheedling its way down deeper and deeper and deeper, so that when things change, there will be a certain part of you that will be able to say, whoa, wow, this is change.
Robert, hi, it's Catherine.
Hello,
I have
Catherine.
a question. Actually, Kat's question kind of sparked my own. So sometimes when I meditate, I get into a state where it's like I'm dreaming, and I think, oh my gosh, am I about to fall asleep here? It's like I feel like, is this sleepy torpor? And I'm not asleep at all. But I get into these sort of fantastical dreamlike states, and I stopped myself from doing it. I was like, no, that's not where I want to go. But maybe I'm just wondering, is that the right thing to do? Should I just maybe I should just be curious about that. But it's almost like the dream mechanism of my brain starts to open up, except I'm not asleep.
Did you see the movie Being John Malkovich?
No, I've heard a lot about it. I haven't seen that.
Well, it's this very silly movie where if you go to floor 6.5 in this building, you get to go in there, and then for 30 seconds you are John Malkovich, and you see through his eyes, and then you get dropped summarily by the side of the freeway. It's a very silly movie, but these images that you're talking about, this is a very predictable, normal thing, and they're like hypnagogic imageries, and they're like a tachistoscopic presentation. All of a sudden, boom, it's real, and you're looking through somebody else's eyes. You're in somebody's life or something, And this happens when concentration is rather strong and gets there's a little more concentration than there is a wisdom or mindfulness. And so there's a drifting into the dream state. My one hypothesis is that those states are happening all the time. Mostly we don't notice them. We notice them at night when the ego's gone. But so what to do with them is, if you have when you emerge from it, then you can notice it as, oh, that happened. It's kind of like, thank you for sharing, and then take up your primary object again with some, not with intent, not sharply, but because you're just falling into that, and you'll go into it and out of it, and it's not uncommon that happens, particularly for people on retreat after a day or two or three. The fatigue layers are gone, maybe somewhat, and then this concentration starts happening, and that's one of the things that happens. So neither to celebrate, oh boy, I've got there, or to be worried about it. It's just one of the layers.
Okay. But so kind of just gently bringing myself back to the object of the focus is
or to notice, oh, look at this. This is to be curious. This is interesting. It's not like it's a bad thing. It's just one of the layers.
Right. It's one of those other things my mind is doing.
And I would correct the mind.
Oh, the mind.
It's a small but dynamic change to call it the mind, because it's then something in which there's curiosity of this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Robert. Just a quick question following up on
Hello, Eileen.
Catherine and everybody else. This is Eileen. Hi. When I'm back to working on a novel, and I remember all the writers speaking about meditation, and there's books on this too, to open the flow. And I think part of it is that your ego gets out of the way. And before I was back on this, I think I mentioned it once, I have these flashes of images but they're flashes, they're like that are just having nothing to do with anything. So I'm really involved very intensely on the novel and editing from the beginning. And I felt as if I was really relaxing and breathing, concentrating. And then suddenly the problem of rewriting for hours, the very beginning, literally the first page, which is the hardest, it came to me, the problem is because you really need to start at another scene that's further down the page. But I wasn't consciously thinking about it. And that happens often with water, showering or doing dishes. And this is not unique. So my question is it possible that awareness does open this as well? And then I went back to my breath, and I felt very grateful. And as soon as I had to keep from the craving to, well, I need to get to this right away, and went back in. So that's my thought. I wanted to know your thoughts or anybody else's about that. Have you heard about that before?
Well, there's a differentiation that I like to make, which is, this is my meditation time, and during my meditation time, no intuition, no brilliant whatever, none of it is of any relevance. What's of relevance is relinquishing and being present with the breath, letting go and letting go and letting go. Then there's another time, which is not my formal meditation training, which is, now I want to be creative. And now I might be sitting in exactly the same place, but my intention is not to be so focused on insight meditation, but to have the door to intuition open. And then oftentimes wonderful things will come through.
Well, I wasn't, that was what was so surprising to me, because I was not at all thinking about being creative. As a matter of fact, at the beginning, I said, yeah, this is your mind pulling you from meditation. So I was very, for me, extremely concentrated and really was filling my body, etc. And so it felt as if it just opened by itself. And
Yes.
then I went back because I got the answer. I didn't need to dwell on it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That was thank you. And then I went back and, I'll deal with it in 15 minutes.
That's the way of intuition. It comes bursting through on its own. It's not, yeah. And sometimes it'll happen in the shower and sometimes on the meditation sheet and wherever. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I need to go. It's 8:30. Lovely to be with you folks this morning. And yeah, let's go out on a song. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Have a lovely mindful day, dear friends.
Thank you.